If Red Bull does decide to cut ties with Sergio Perez for 2025, who are the leading candidates to replace the Mexican driver? The only man to defeat Red Bull in a race since the end of 2022, Carlos Sainz has found himself down at the job center trying to find a new drive for 2025, a pretty unfair situation for the Spaniard to have found himself in, given how well he's been driving over the past 12 months. But the man Christian Horner has now jokingly labeled as Red Bull's nemesis does indeed find himself unemployed. But could the Spaniard be the leading contender to replace Perez? Horner said, "We just want to take our time. Checo was compromised on Sunday but has had a great start to the season. We are not in any desperate rush. Carlos is the only driver who has beaten Red Bull, so he appears to be our nemesis." It's worth remembering that Sainz already has an extensive history with Red Bull, having climbed through the ranks of the junior categories with their backing, but reported politics between Carlos and Max's respective fathers while the pair raced together at Toro Rosso in 2015 resulted in tensions rising, with Sainz now an established frontrunner in his own right. How fun would a rematch between Verstappen and Sainz at the main Red Bull team be to watch? With age now firmly against him, despite his insistence that he's got years left in him, Alonso still has what it takes in the short term to bring home wins and perhaps even a championship, with his contract at Aston Martin ending at the same time as Perez is at Red Bull. There's nothing in theory to stop Alonso from joining Red Bull, if the Milton Keynes-based squad was so inclined. But, unless Red Bull fancy annoying Verstappen with a driver who likes having a team focused around him as well, the Spaniard might not make as much sense as the likes of Sainz or an internal promotion might. Reports in the German media on Monday suggested Christian Horner has his eyes firmly set on Alonso for 2025, but other reports suggest those same suggestions have been planted by Alonso's camp on his behalf in a bid to raise his market value. In the right circumstances, Alonso makes a lot of sense, but are those right circumstances in place? It doesn't seem as likely, not while Verstappen remains in place. Personally, I think they've been there done that with Carlos Sainz, and Max doesn't need the pushing, nor do they care about boredom, too much risk of team disruption between the two garages with Carlos Sainz. I say that fully believing we fans generally would prefer only top roosters on top teams duking it out, but that the historical reality is that teams try to avoid that almost all the time, to the detriment of the show.